the PFF grade didn't exactly line up with the stats that we saw on the stat sheet and the win that they got in the win column, and that is with the Philadelphia Eagles and specifically Jalen Hurts. Hurts earned a 33.3 passing grade this past weekend, but went 20 for 34 with 278 yards, and his team got the big win. So this is one of those quarterbacks that I definitely wanted to dive into because the whole point of PFF is to take a look at how the performance was on every single play, not just the final result of the game. So when you watched Hurts, I want to kind of have this conversation here with you. What did you see with him when it came to there just being such a big gap between what we saw on the stat sheet and then his overall grade for us?
I think the gap in terms of the PFF grade compared to the traditional box score stats has to do with all the big plays were all on kind of like what I'd call designer concepts. Like these are like, in a sense, one-off concepts that you can't really run throughout the game, but you pick your spots for it. And the kind of obvious one is the Saquon Barkley first touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Where Saquon Barkley is running through the offensive line to run a wheel route from the opposite side of the field, and he gets open. It's actually a good throw. Like, I'm not even going to say it's not a good throw.
No, it was a good throw. I think it was one of his big time throws. He had two big time throws, and I'm pretty sure that was one of them.
Right. And so like, that ended up being a good throw, like for sure. But like I think there was a lot of those type of plays where you ended up with guys wide open. I mean, like the AJ Brown out and up. You know, that's not like a great quarterback play. He's taking the snap, kind of thinking like, I'm pretty much always going to AJ Brown on this out and up. I'm pretty much always going to Saquon Barkley on this kind of wheel route, and you have a lot of those type of plays. You have a lot of runs after catch. But other than that, and I will say, like, the move to Kellen Moore's offense is going to give them those opportunities. I mean, those are all really good designer plays, which I think they lacked last year with Brian Johnson in the way that they probably had them with Shane Steichen the year before they went to the Super Bowl. So you're going to get that with Kellen Moore. The issue is, I don't know if and this is going to be the issue for the whole season, is like, are we getting anything more out of Jalen Hurts that we've been wanting for a couple of years now? Like, even when they went to the Super Bowl, this was a guy who threw the ball outside, threw it to his big time playmakers outside, which is fair. I would also do that.
Right.
But didn't want to, or couldn't throw to the middle of the field. Everything was outside. You have this tremendous offensive line over his career there that makes everything a lot easier. You're in better down and distances because the run game works. You're not getting pressure as much. But if that offensive line takes the hit and you're thinking more of the interior, with Lane Johnson and Mailata, you're good on the outside.
Right.
But if it takes the hit, then everything's not as hunky-dory as it's been.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't love the fit. We'll see as it goes forward. I still don't love the fit in Kellen Moore's offense with this type of quarterback. Kellen Moore wants to be a drop-back passer. He'll have to come around to where Hurts is. I think we saw some of it. And like I said, the design stuff was good. Like, they're going to be able to create explosive plays because I think Kellen Moore is good at that stuff.
Right.
But for the most part, this is a drop-back passing offense. I don't think it fits Hurts. And then going back to the grade, I mean, the grade is just because, dropped interception, like bad plays, that and inaccurate balls, I thought, a lot of the time. So I'm not sure what to think going forward. I don't think Hurts is as good as people thought he was after the Super Bowl run. I don't think he was good. I don't think he was that good even during the Super Bowl run. So I think there's a lot. If this O-line takes a step back, if the mesh isn't right with the new offensive coordinator, I think the grade kind of fits what I think we'll see for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it's not that he's not going to have better games than this, but and I'm with you. I don't want to take away some of the good that was in that game, but again, the whole point of our process and being more transparent is we're grading every single play that a player has. And going back and watching all of his snaps, the majority of Jalen Hurts this past week against Green Bay felt I mean, it just, you felt like you wanted more. You wanted better. Especially for a quarterback that people talk about as a top 10 quarterback in the league, and obviously led his team to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And they had the fantastic start to last season, even though it sort of, obviously unraveled in a bad way. But, for example, over the middle, you mentioned the over the middle stuff. 1 for 4 over the middle when it was beyond 10 yards. And 2 of his 4 turnover-worthy plays came in that. So he only attempted 4 passes of 10 yards or more over the middle of the field. 2 of them were turnover-worthy plays. 2 of them were interceptions. Like, they were bad. And the thing about Hurts is that sometimes a turnover-worthy play, like, you can get a turnover-worthy play and it might not yield, like, the lowest negative grade that you can get on a singular play performance for PFF. But Hurts's turnover-worthy plays were bad, like, really bad. Like, throws that should have never been made, that he knows shouldn't have been made. Like, you were watching, if you watched Bo Nix against the Seattle Seahawks, there were a handful of throws that, obviously everybody talks about the one interception to the sideline where Adam Archuleta is like, oh no, before the ball is even out of his hand. Like, Hurts had multiple throws that were like that, and we're talking about a veteran in this league, and that's why, it wasn't just a turnover-worthy play. It was throws that should have never been made for him. And that obviously dings his grade even more because it's probably the worst type of turnover-worthy play. And then you also look at, I'm not talking about the confusion on the snap when he had the snap kind of like bounce off his chest when he was in shotgun formation. If you want to just call that, hey, that was miscommunication, that's not on Hurts, that's fine. We didn't even call that a turnover-worthy play. But him botching the snap on the QB sneak at the goal line that Saquon just happened to fall on, like, that's another turnover-worthy play. So technically he had 5 in this game. And he had some good throws. It's not like he didn't have any good throws in the game. The Eagles won the game. The field was all over the place. And so, when I was watching Hurts, it was so weird. His lower body and his footwork for so many throws just were not in sync. It was like he was afraid to truly step up into passes. I don't know if it had to do with the field or what, but there were even a couple of throws that weren't even turnover-worthy play throws, that the ball placement, the accuracy was off because it's like he was, I don't know, it was almost like he was like still playing hurt even a little bit. He was not moving the way that he needed to, too much upper body. The ball wasn't leaving his hand in a repeatable way, and he just looked really, really uncomfortable against the Packers. So, yeah, I think that a lot of people look at that grade and the fact that the Eagles got the win, and there's a lot of pushback for it, but when you go back and you really watch Hurts, to the people who probably believe in him the most, if you were to go back and watch every single snap, you would also have to be disappointed in how he played. They got the win, and obviously it's good for the Eagles, but Hurts' performance in that was not his best. There's no doubt about it.
You talk about the injury stuff from last year, and I think a lot of people kind of were holding on to that and saying, well, it was kind of like this knee injury or whatever it was. They didn't really want to talk about it. And so now he's healthy, everything's going to be better. And yeah, potentially, like, I'm not going to discount that, but like, Hurts was never this incredible runner. Like, I would put, in terms of like the tier of quarterbacks who are mobile and runners, he's probably near the bottom of that list in terms of being able to create plays. He's not a really great scrambler. You can use him probably better on inside runs, but then you get into that aspect of like, how many can we call for a quarterback in the NFL, right?
It's a Cam Newton thing. Like, Cam Newton could get all sorts of yards running between the tackles, but how often do you actually want Cam Newton doing something like that?
Exactly. It's the Josh Allen thing.
Yeah.
As well, when they get into bad situations, then they use Josh Allen, but they don't necessarily have to move the football. And it's kind of the same thing with the Eagles because of how good that offense has been. But so you're like, hey, well, we can't really do that type of stuff. His pressure response is not great. He loves to bubble outside, like kind of bubble through the back door of the pocket rather than kind of stepping up and navigating. And again, for a guy who we talk about as a mobile player, outside of the pocket, he's pretty bad. Like, actually really, really, really bad outside the pocket. And because he cuts his field down in half because he's always running to his right, which is where his arm is. But he still really can't, he can't really contort his body. He doesn't have that kind of flexibility, I think, when you see some other guys in the league have. we're going to see it a lot in the next, hopefully 10, 12 years from Caleb Williams, that type of flexibility on the run. He doesn't have that. So there's a lot that you have to do to help this offense besides, well, I would say the main thing is having good players, and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and
helps. Definitely
Lane
helps.
Johnson and Jordan Mailata, and then previously Jason Kelsey, like it helps. But yeah, so like, yeah, I get the whole injury thing, but I'm not sure it really really elevates him this year, and we've seen it already. Like, it's just not, like you said, maybe it's the turf. Everyone was slipping in that game, maybe something there with that, but it's not. It's funny because it's like troubling, and yet at the same time, do I think the Eagles are not going to score 20 plus points a game? I probably will.
Right.
And then my pushback to my own point there is, like, the Packers defense was pretty vanilla. Like, we talked the whole offseason about, okay, you got to blitz Hurts, you got to pressure Hurts, because his own pressure response, like I said, about leaving the pocket from the back door, is not good. And the offense last year, and people talk about like not being on the same page with the receivers when they would get pressure and stuff like that. Well, Packers did not test it at all. You can look at the blitz numbers, and they're like fine, but I don't know what else to call them, but like they're kind of fake blitzes. I mean, like there's like one linebacker who's starting at 5 yards and who blitzes like right off the snap. Like, we can handle that, right? Like, we're good. We're an NFL team. We can handle that.
Right.
But we're talking about not a lot of exotic stuff, not a lot of real cover zero, not a lot of exotic stuff that they were bringing. So it kind of remains to be seen whether this Eagles offense has fixed those issues. Like I said, even though the numbers are probably good, I haven't looked them up, I'm pretty sure they're probably okay versus the blitz. Take it with a grain of salt.
So we will see. We will see how Hurts is able to play throughout the rest of the season. I mean, if you want to say like, oh, it was the turf and things like that, obviously he'll have a bounce back performance. But I just think that it's really noteworthy. Whether you agree with how low the grade was or not, Hurts did not come out of the gate in a strong way. And traveling, playing in Brazil, new turf, like all that kinds of stuff. I do think that goes into it. So we'll see how much he can bounce back. But I think that's the way that you phrase it. How much can he bounce back? What is the true sort of like medium of where the middle is of how Jalen Hurts is just going to play for most of the season? Because I think a lot of people think that it's at an elite level, but it might be a little bit lower. We'll see. Obviously, it was just not a good game for him to start out with. 5 potential turnover-worthy plays, not being able to hit over the middle, just the inconsistent accuracy with how his feet were, with where the ball, with how he was releasing the ball. A lot of that stuff was struggles. They got the win, which is great for him, but a repeat performance from Hurts in that way, I don't think gets you a win most weeks in the NFL. So we'll see how he's able to do moving forward.